Contestant number 6. Luke Spiegelhoff, chosen, Luke Spiegelhoff.
Now, don't tell me that all of you haven't had this thought at some point in your childhood. Oh, I wish I lived in another family. I grew up in a family of 6 kids, and I guarantee you there were many a day where I thought to myself, oh, if I only had a mom and dad that paid attention to me, or if you're from a big family, you would appreciate this, that I could eat a box of sweet cereal all by myself. You see, for most of us, the family we're born into is the family we have for the rest of our life. For richer or for poor, in sickness and health, till death do us part. But for some, far fewer in number, they're born in one family and raised in another. Let me share a story with you. Like all good stories, this starts with a young couple in love. Well, actually, they weren't so young anymore. He was 32 and she was 38. And she actually already had 3 kids from another marriage. But love brought them together, and they wanted to raise a child together. And so after they were married, they got to business and tried to conceive. But they found out soon after starting that they couldn't conceive. So they did what was, they thought, the next best option, and that was to adopt. So you would think, at 32 and 38, they would want to get this process going. But by the time they did all the surveys, they did all the tests, did their home study, and paid their fees, it was 4 years later. But by then, they were ready. Now, here's something you need to know about adoption nowadays. In the past, it used to be that parents would pick the child they were interested in adopting. Nowadays, they have what's called open adoption. And in an open adoption, it's usually the birth mother and her support system that help choose the parent of the child. Now, here's what happens. When you're ready to adopt, you go into what's called the waiting family book. Now, the waiting family book is like scrapbooking on steroids. There's literally dozens of families in there, all with a story to tell, all waiting to adopt and bring a child into their home. So the couple went into the book, and they were. 2 months went by, they had a couple nibbles, but nothing serious. And finally, by month 3, they got the call. It came from the adoption social worker. The adoption social worker said to them, we have a child. The birth mother has picked you. She's 17. The child was born approximately 8 weeks ago. She was born at 24 weeks. She weighs 2 pounds, 2 ounces. That was at birth, but now she's about 4 pounds. She just left the hospital and is now in foster care. Here's something you need to know. She has significant lung issues. She may have significant developmental delays as she grows up. And, oh, by the way, she's profoundly deaf. Now, the couple had considered this. They had considered whether or not to bring a possible child with developmental disabilities in their home. And they were open to that option. So they met with the birth mother. So they traveled 3 hours north, and they met with the birth mother and the birth grandmother in the back of a bar that family owned. And for 2 hours, they spent time with this potential adoptive parents, talking about all the hopes that they had for the child that was just born. And the prospective adoptive couple talked about all the hopes and dreams that they would be able to offer to this child if it came into the home. And at the end of the 2 hours, the birth grandmother leaned over and said to the couple, we would like you to adopt Angelica. I was that prospective adoptive father. And in a moment that was the most surreal moment of my life, within 2 hours, I was literally handed a life. A life I had no role in creating, but that I would be responsible for till death do us part. I remember that car ride home. The atmosphere was literally electric in the car with my wife. It was, did that just happen? To, what if she changes her mind? To, are we ready for this? 30 days later, Angelica came into our home. She became our forever child. in our forever home. 15 years later, she is now a freshman in high school. And I can guarantee you there are days when she says to herself, I wish I'd lived in another family. There are 130,000 children like Faith waiting to be adopted in the U.S. But if you think this is a call to adoption, you're wrong. This is a story about choosing and belonging. Think about this. We are all part of a family. And a family provides a primal need for us. That is, to belong. To have someone claim us as their own. And for us to do the same. And for them to love us. And for us to love them back. If you have a family that you would still choose, that you were born into, consider yourself blessed. I'm a therapist by profession, and there are many, many clients I see that come into my office full of immense pain, coming from broken homes where there's been physical abuse, sexual abuse, divorce, death, and sometimes the worst being abandonment. I say the same thing to those clients that I'm going to tell you today. There's a family you're born into and the family you choose. And you have a choice, I say to them. You have people in your life that care about you. You have friends. You have neighbors. You may have a spouse, a partner. Heck, it could even be the postal carrier if they're that close to them. But you have a choice to choose the family didn't have when you were born. And isn't that what we all want? To belong. To be loved. When I started this whole adoption process, the irony is not lost on me. That I was chosen. Thank God I was chosen.